All right, hello and welcome to the Messana YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you our app. When you have a Messana system, you're going to be using the Messana app on your phone or on a web browser to control your system. Here at Messana, we're not big fans of having an ugly wall thermostat that disrupts the aesthetic of your environment. We'd much rather just have sensors in the room that are very discreet, and then you control your system from a computer or from your phone. And so that's what I'm going to show you here today. So let's get right into it. When you first hop in, you'll see your project name and then you'll see your project address. And so say you have several Messana systems, you want to make sure that you're working with the right one and that you're managing the right one. Then you'll see AccuWeather data that we pull from AccuWeather for today and the next 3 days. So you'll see it's 69 degrees here in SoCal, California. We have a 55.9% relative humidity and then moderate air quality. And then, you'll see that for the next 3 days. When you scroll down, you're going to see your mechanical equipment, and this gives you a really good snapshot as to what's going on with your system. Here you can see Ray Magic, which refers to the radiant ceiling panels that are conditioning our office. You'll see the mixing valve position, which is adjusting the supply water temperature to the panels. So you'll see where that's positioned. You'll see the target temperature, and then you'll see the supply temp and return temp. And this is really neat because you could really see the cooling occurring. We're supplying 48-degree water, but it's coming back at 52 degrees. So that difference is the thermal energy being transferred from our environment. So what's really going on is the heat that is gained by the water was extracted from our environment. So that is really showing cooling occurring. And then you'll see air treatment units. So that's this ATU, our heat pump. We have buffer tanks, another ATU, and then fan coils as well. From there, you can check out the left tab, which is the main menu. There you can see your normal settings. Then you can take a look at your systems. There's other stuff like changeovers, schedules, energy savings mode. Then you can do graphs and timers. But that's how you'll make adjustments to your system. And then on the far right is actually how you'll see your zones. And so this is how you get a snapshot as to what's going on in each zone of your building. And so a zone is not necessarily a room. It's just how you break down your system. So if you have like a kitchen in close proximity to a living room, those could be one zone, or you could zone them out separately. But this is how you see what's going on in one specific area. And you set your zones when you're designing your system. And so the sales area, for instance, we'll click into that, but you'll see your set point for heating, and then you'll see your set point for cooling. And then you'll also see your indoor air quality, which is good. That's this green happy guy. We're not yellow, we're not moderate, we are good, which is great. And then, you'll also see which schedule we're following, which is really cool. So you could see at 5 a.m. every day, Monday through Friday, our system turns on, gets ready for us to come into work. And then at 7 p.m. it turns off. And so that's a good way to make sure you're only using your system when you're here and, making sure you're saving energy. For the most part, that's about it. That's the general rundown. The one thing I did want to jump into real quick is the icons that you'll see in the top right. And these are based on your system and based on what your system has. So for example, this is a radiant ceiling icon. You can see it's top down, but it'll be flipped for a radiant floor. And so we don't have that on here because we don't have a radiant floor in our office. But that you could have a radiant floor. Let's just jump right into that really fast. We have A, and it's a blue circle, and so that means we are in cooling. Blue just means cooling, and A just means automatic. So it can be manual or automatic heating or cooling. And so that's what we see there. This is the setback, and that's a temperature differential that you'll set. And basically, even when your system's off, if you don't want it to get super hot or super cold, you can set a differential so it kicks on once it's getting past that temperature. So here in our office, it's 6 degrees. So if we get 6 degrees higher than our set point or lower than our set point, we'll turn the system on for a little bit to maintain a relatively comfortable temperature. That's not meant for us as occupants, but it's meant to just make sure the environment doesn't get too hot or too cold. Then from there, you'll see your hydronic terminals. So here we see a radiant ceiling. That's in cooling. That's why it's blue. You might see a radiant floor. You might see it orange, which would show that it's in heating. And then you also have fan coils. And so when you have a square around a fan coil, that means it's a first stage fan coil. It is responsible for a zone's heating or cooling. Whereas when it's a circle, it is second stage, meaning it is the backup system for a zone. And so these are hydronic fan coils. They use the same hydronic lines as our panels, but they can be used for a zone to completely meet loads or just to supplement a radiant system. And so that's the difference you'll see here. Once again, they can be orange or blue for heating or cooling. Then this thing right here, this little crossover icon is your HRV icon. It could also be your ERV icon, and that is heat recovery ventilator or energy recovery ventilator. If you don't know what those are, I'll try and make a future video on that. The next you'll see the dehumidification status, whether we're running a dehumidifier or not. And then you'll also see pumps being active, buffer tank being active and cooling. as well as your heat pump being active and cooling. And you'll also see your system alarms. And I'll just show you real quick. We have a dirty filter alarm. Maybe I should go change the filter in our air treatment unit. And then we also have communication errors, which are just for things that we've been testing. There's really nothing wrong with our system, I promise. But as I said, we're always working, and testing with our system. And so we'll see these errors sometimes. But yeah, that's about it for today. That's all I really wanted to show off. If you have any questions regarding the app, if you're a user and you have this like a process that you really want me to break down, I'd be happy to do it. Just drop a comment and let me know. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to share is that we have a Get Started tab on our website that is a link to 3 types of estimates. You can get an estimate for our panels, for our controls, or for a complete Messana system. You could also add radiant floor or hydronic fan coil options too. And so whatever you're dreaming of for your hydronic system, you can kind of configure and then get a quote for. So it'll either send you an email quote or it'll put you in contact with some of our hydronic experts to talk details with you. It's a good way to kind of get started and to get an idea as to what your system might entail. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something today. Take care.